Do you have guests on your show and you want to get them enrolled to help you promote and reach more people? That's what we're going through today, right here, right now. It's On Air Brands.
You are now tuned in to the On Air Brands podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the On Air Brand Show. I am Todd Giannattasio, along with my co-host Amber Fuhriman. Amber, what is going on?
What's up, Todd? I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. It's so good to see you and kind of in real life.
Yeah, real time. We're streaming, seeing each other.
Right.
How
was your Thanksgiving?
It was pretty good. Lots of good food and family time, and
Good.
stomach bug floating around afterwards. But that's just part of life. You got to roll with the punches.
It's not Thanksgiving without a stomach bug, right?
Exactly. I was very proud of myself, though. I did not eat until the point of wanting to throw up, which is good. And maybe that's why I avoided, the stomach bug afterwards. Who knows?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like I'm finally growing up. I didn't eat until my button popped off my pants for the first time ever.
Adulting's hard.
Yeah, it's very hard. These are the kind of sacrifices we make.
I know. It's true. It's true.
You went on a nice long road trip.
I did. Yeah. I did. And I didn't actually think Transformers were real, but my car changed. So that was amazing. I know. I left in this really crappy Chrysler and I came back in a 4Runner and I have no idea what happened.
Nice. Yeah. I love it. And very determined. I know. You didn't even really want to go home on that 400-mile trek for Thanksgiving, but you were like, you had to find this car somewhere in the country. And you ended up all the way back at home.
It was true. Yeah. Let's not let my family know that. No, I went home for my family. It was the drive back to Vegas. I was persistent though. They didn't have what I wanted on the lot, but they told me they could get it by the end of the day. So I waited for it and I didn't make it home till 3 a.m. I was in court by 8 like a trooper. Wow. Again, adulting's hard.
Yeah, exactly. The sacrifices we make. I love it.
Yes.
So let's talk today. For shows unlike ours that do have guests, a lot of shows, most of them I think that I listen to, are the interview style format and they get guests. And most of the time you don't really see guests promoting shows after they've been on it. Maybe there's the one-off, hey, I was on a show, I was on an episode, here's the link, but not really true promotion or help in, driving a lot of listeners rather than just kind of like going through the motions. But you have an amazing process for your show more than corporate that really helps get your guests enrolled in the promotion process afterwards. So why don't you give us a little breakdown of how you get that working?
Thank you. I would love to. And I'm going to be making some changes to it as well, based upon some feedback that I got. So I'm going to throw some of those into the process as well, if things people can try. So I think that the biggest thing is that this whole podcasting experience is about relationships, right? Building relationships, nurturing those, being able to find out how you can be mutually beneficial. And so when you have a podcast guest that's coming on, they're coming on for a purpose. And as a podcast host, we get to decide what that purpose is, how we can help them get their message out in a way that also supports our audience. And the more that you're able to do that, the more willing they are to share the guest or share the episode on the back end, because you've done a good job at making it promotional material for them. So I think that the first thing is it actually starts before the interview even happens, of what are we going to talk about that's beneficial to my guest, that's also beneficial to my audience, that's also beneficial to me? How do we create the win-win-win? And then they'll be more likely to share on the end. So that's kind of the first step. But we have all had those guests that don't on the back end. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and just say that it's busy. Mm-hmm. So the next thing you got to do is take all of the work out of it for them. So that's where my process comes in. So
and now let's compare this to like the normal show process where where for someone who doesn't have what you implement yet, normally what happens is you send an email out. Hopefully you at least do this as a bare minimum. Hey, Amber, thanks so much for being on the show and recording last week or whenever. Want to let you know the episode's up. Here's a link to the show if you want to listen back. I think that's like the absolute bare minimum that I see people doing. But that, again, that is not easy. That now I have to come up with like, oh, now I have to like figure out what to write and schedule and promote and all that kind of stuff. Like, really, it's more that usually when you send a message like that, it's the easiest response is like, thanks so much for having me on the show. I love it. I loved being on. Maybe they'll click and listen back to the interview themselves. But like you said, that leaves an entire marketing effort left on their plate if you want them to promote it. So
yeah,
pick up from there where we're taking that work off of their plate.
Yeah. So first of all, there are a couple of tools that you can use to help you make this happen, because it is a lot if you're trying to do it out of memory. So I have a spreadsheet. I've passed that along to my executive assistant with, because now she's taken over it, with what needs to go out and when. You can automate the tasks. My number one helper is Calendly. So if you guys don't have Calendly or something similar to it, you should be using that, because the paid version, which isn't even that expensive, has this workflows option in the back end of it, where you can customize these emails that are going to go out at specified times that you don't have to take mental energy or time to do. So when a guest books with me, they get this interview form that has all of the assets uploaded to a Google Drive. That makes it easy for the social media team that I use to create the assets and be able to make sure that everything for the promotion on the back end is good to go. Then when they have their bio that's in there, everything's uploaded to Google Drive. Calendly, after the interview, will automatically send them a thank you email, ask them to leave a review on Apple, and let them know that we will contact them when the episode is close to releasing. Then you can also set reminders for yourself in Calendly. So then I get an email and a text message 30 days after the interview reminding me to follow up with the guest. Like, it's been 30 days since you've talked to this guest. Reach out to them, see how they're doing. You know, they had a book released. Ask how the book sales are going. Whatever needs to be prompted to remind me in my busy life that I need to.
And this is something I really want to emphasize, because what you just described has nothing to do with promoting the show. Mm-hmm. It is 100% about just maintaining and building a relationship with the person. Check in with them and say thank you and see how things are going. Like, that's, you know, in a normal checklist of like, quote unquote, get your guests to promote your show, you're not going to see something like check in and see how they're doing, right? Like that's what makes a huge difference, is that everything is about relationships. And I love that you have that as one of the checkpoints in there for you, and that you're not automating it, where it doesn't send them an email 30 days after and say, hey, checking in a generic way, but it's sending you a task. Hey, send a personalized, thoughtful message to this person that's timely and relevant, so they know it's not just an automated message. And that's huge. Building relationships is everything. And I love that you have that in there.
There's also a step that I missed, and this is my favorite thing ever. And I will say, through the holidays, I was not as detailed on this as I should have been, but I send a handwritten thank you card to every single one of my guests. And so I have that reminder set in Calendly as well. Did you send, a week later, have you sent this thank you card yet? If you haven't, you need to get this done. So guest records with me. I send them a handwritten thank you card. And then I follow up with them a month later. The episode might have released depending on my schedule. Who knows? So these next steps are the actual release stuff. So when the episode releases, I have social media releases on throughout the week, varied. So the episode release comes out with a release post, and then the next day will be like a quote from the episode, and then we'll do a video because it's released on YouTube. So we take like a 75-second clip that we can put on Instagram. We release that, and then on Thursday is another quote. So these 4 assets go out, and the guest gets tagged in all of these on social media. On Monday, the Monday that the episode comes out, they get an email that says, hey, your episode is live. We're going to be promoting it on social media for you this week. So look out for those tags. When we have all of the assets promoted, we're going to share a Google Drive link with you so that you have them all and you can use them however you see fit. I never ask a guest to promote on social media. I ask them to use these assets that I've created for you however you see fit. But I've just tagged them. This is where the human relationship comes in. I just tagged them on all the social media. And then I just provided them with an image that has a quote on it that they can use that is their information. I provided them with the full video on YouTube. I provided them with 3 video clips. Some of them I promoted, some of them I didn't, but they're all on YouTube. I provided them with the website link that's specific on my website to their episode. A ton of stuff that they get to use to now show that they are putting themselves out on podcasts. They're an authority because they're talking about things that's important to them. They are naturally going to share this information because it's beneficial to them. But I never ask them to. And I don't follow up and say, hey, I noticed that you haven't shared your podcast. Like, what's up? If a guest doesn't share your podcast information after you've given them the assets, you didn't do a good job of creating the relationship and showing them why, or the assets that you've created are not valuable to them.
Yeah, I love that. And this is a good example of this. One of my good friends will, I don't know why, but our conversations are all through Facebook Messenger, not through text for some reason, but that's just where our relationship is communicated through. And he will send me a link to one of his tweets if he thinks it's funny or valuable, whatever. And he's just sending it to me to show it to me. But every single time, because this is one of my best friends, he sent me a tweet. Of course, as soon as I click on it, I hit the like button and I hit the retweet button and I'm sharing it but purely almost never has to do with whatever the content is, but just because that's one of my best friends and I just want to amplify what they're putting out, and just, making it easy for people. And when you have that relationship, it's similar to the email marketing stuff that I talk about where, what's the best subject line? What's the best time to send emails? It's well, when my wife sends me an email or when my daughter's school sends me an email, I don't even look at the subject line and I couldn't tell you what time that it arrived in my inbox. I just know that name is something I have to open and see what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about the process all day long. And everything that I mentioned is what I actually do. So I'll go through the things that I'm thinking of adding in here soon. But we talk about the process and we can do that all day long. If you don't have the right intention of building a relationship and actually creating a space that is beneficial for everybody involved, it doesn't matter what process you use, they're going to fail every single time. So that intention has to be we have this platform. And if you have a podcast and you haven't realized that you have gold in your hands, then, we need to have a conversation about what you're using that for, because you've created the stage for somebody to come on and tap into your audience. And whether you have an audience of 10 people or 10,000 people, you have an audience that people want to connect with, and you have credibility with them. And a guest gets to borrow that credibility. Then you get to borrow the guest's credibility with their audience. And it's this amazing synergetic conversation when it's done right. I have some great friends that I didn't know before they were podcast guests of mine.
I think that we met with me being a guest on your show at a PodMax event. I think that's how we actually met initially.
We did. So there's something, and this kind of goes inside a sales conversation.
Yeah.
But what is podcasting and what is getting a guest to promote your episode? It's sales, right? Yeah. So just as in sales, how do you get somebody to do something and make them think it's their idea and make them think it's what they want to do? You make it as easy as possible. You take away the resistance, right? And you make it a win-win and beneficial and something that they see the value in. So when I was dealing with this in sales, the sales block that I had, somebody told me, Amber, you can always have an agenda. You can always have a goal. And that goal could be to get somebody on your podcast. It could be to get somebody to enroll in a program. It could be, whatever the agenda or goal for that call is. But your intention always has to be to build a relationship. And so that difference between the intention and the objective was a game changer for me. So taking that into podcasting, your objective can always be to get them to promote the episode, can always be whatever that objective is for you. Your intention has to be value-based, has to, hands down, or else it won't work.
Yeah, totally. And not to get too woo-woo, but the energy that you send out with those intentions does make a huge difference as well. I 100% believe that, So that's great. And I love it. What other tips and tools or tricks do you have? I mean, you mentioned your executive assistant, which I know is relatively recent, and that's been a game changer for you too, right? And that's also kind of involved in getting this stuff set up and run. You're not the one who's creating these assets that go into Google Drive or anything like that.
No, I'm not. So here's what I'll say. When I started my podcast, I didn't have a business to support it. It started as a passion project. So I was putting out of pocket for the money in the beginning. And there were some non-negotiables for me. Number one, an audio editor, and now a video editor because of YouTube. We're all busy. If I have to do it on my own, it's not getting done. And then on top of that, when you first start a podcast, you're awful. Like, let's be real. It sucks. And then you edit it and you're like, oh, I didn't mean to say that. And that sounded horrible. And then all of a sudden your 60-minute episode is like 27 seconds long. And you're like, here's my podcast episode, right? So if you think I'm lying, edit your own episode and see what happens. So for me, I needed to have somebody else doing the work and publishing it for me. So I didn't listen to any of my own episodes until they were published. I recorded, I hit send, they published, and then I listened so that I could have constructive feedback for myself of what I wanted to change. The other way around, they never would have launched ever. So,
and for the perfectionists listening, it's like you're never, you're never going to publish it. You're going to go back and forth. You're going to cost yourself a ton of time and money trying to edit it down to being perfect. Send it to professionals, let them get it to the quality of professionalism that a non-perfectionist who's just being, overly critical on themselves, let someone else be the judge of that for getting it out in a professional manner.
Absolutely. And then all of the things that we're talking about, I mean, you can get a virtual assistant to do it for you, which is what I did in the very beginning. In the end, though, I've now switched to actual social media solutions that are able to help me. Because when you use a virtual assistant for different things, it's all piecemealed, and then you've got all these conversations going on. And so eventually you're going to want to get to the point where you're using a social media solution that can then take that over for you and take that off of your plate. But in the beginning, if you have a lower access to financial resources than you do time resources, then this may be something you do on your own. You're going to want to create Calendly or Canva or some other social media template that you can then just plug and play the guest's information into. So that's going to be an important one. I
think I got to say about, time and energy and tools and stuff, like Canva is so amazing. And I'm going to speak to that specifically because I was doing this yesterday, but it goes, I'm sure there's other alternatives that do similar things. And this goes across the board. This is just an example of the technology that helps us work so much faster and cheaper. When I started, my first job was at Universal Records in 2006. And I was designing websites and building websites and doing MySpace social media marketing for huge artists. And I remember that, we would get the assets sent to us, like the, a photo of the artist with no background and stuff like that. So we put it in the graphics. And the people who, it's called like a photo composite, the people who outlined and cut out the background, right? So that it was a picture of like with a transparent background so we could drop it on different things. They made and I was like 21 years old at the time in 2006. I guess I was 22. And the people who did that work got paid $85 an hour.
Back in when?
2006.
Okay.
And they made $85 an hour. And their job was literally like, here's 100 photos of Lil Wayne, cut out the background and put the transparent, and put the new images with no background in this folder so that the website people can put them into stuff. And in Canva, you can put a photo in there and click the background removal button. And in 9 seconds, the background is gone for free. So like the amount of stuff, like if you're thinking like, oh man, this like, doing something in Canva sounds like so much work and blah blah blah. It's like it's work compared to zero.
Yeah.
But the ability that we have to become creators and impact makers in today's world compared to even just 10 years ago, 15 years ago is insane. And so,
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing either, right?
Right.
So you can hire a graphic designer or
Right.
a branding expert to help you create the templates, but you don't
Yep.
have to hire that same person to do your releases every single week. You
Right.
can ask them to create it in some sort of a template that you can upload into Canva,
Yeah.
and then have an executive assistant or a virtual assistant or your
Yep.
social media team release every single week. It would be like asking your CPA to do your bookkeeping every month. Like, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
So leverage the resources that you have available, hire out
Yep.
what you need to. You're not going to spend time creating your own logo in Canva. I mean, you might. I don't have that kind of time, but I can have my graphic designer create a logo, and then I can
Yep.
upload it into Canva, right?
Yep.
So Canva is amazing.
But the bottom
And-
line is here for, to circle back and tie into like getting your guests to promote the shows is like
Mhm.
making it is number one, focus on building a real relationship with the person, right?
Yes.
Before you even do the interview, during the interview, following up the interview, and making sure you have a process and somewhat automated workflow using simple tools like Calendly, an executive assistant, Google Drive, Canva, those types of things that make it easy for the guest to share. So build your relationship with the guest so that they're going to want to promote the show when it comes out, and then make it easy for them by doing all the work for them and say, hey, here's stuff. If you want to promote it, this will make it easy for you to do so. Tag them when you're posting it so they can easily hit the reshare button. That goes across all the different platforms, and give them the assets directly. So if they want to promote it directly from their channels, they can. So build a relationship, make it super easy, find the ways that are going to make it easy for you to implement, whether that's automated systems and tools, whether it's hiring someone like an executive assistant or even an agency. And if you are looking to get your show off the ground or just more professional, that's what the team at On Air Brands does. So make sure you go to onairbrands.com and contact Eric and the guys over there so they can help you make your show either get started or more professional and polished. So with that, if you want to see Amber's show, make sure you go to morethancorporate.com, subscribe there. She has amazing guests on her show. The list, if you just check out her homepage, is amazing. And check her out on social to see how she's promoting. She has a great process where she's doing those things after her episodes to promote all the guests and all the episodes. So thank you, Amber, so much for breaking down your process today. It's a great blueprint for our audience to follow. And if you guys want more stuff like this from us, make sure you go to onairbrands.com/show and make sure you're subscribed to this show. We're putting out every Wednesday live on Facebook and YouTube, and then across all the audio platforms. So we're bringing our audio mastermind skills to you. And again, if you want to take your podcast to the next level, onairbrands.com, and we will catch you guys on the next episode.
You are now tuned in to the On Air Brands podcast.